to me, discipline equals freedom. And so if you can live by a calendar, an ideal calendar, it frees you up. You're not having to worry about, all right, when am I going to prospect today? It's already planned out and thought of.
Welcome back to the Full Out Real Estate Agent. Today we're speaking with Matt Curtis. So Matt is a team leader for the Matt Curtis Real Estate team. So they have 70 team members, 53 agents, 17 admin. In 2024, did 245 million, and 2025, 250 million. So $250 million in sales, 740 transactions. So average sale price, 340,000. He sold over 8,000 properties, and get this, he has over 4,000 five-star Google reviews here. So number one real estate team in Alabama for 6 consecutive years. And he's actually a close friend as well. We've been masterminding for many, many years and have changed a lot of ideas. And one of Matt's superpowers is his ability to be able to track and then build a strong vision and a very strong culture as well. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Mark. It's always good catching up with you as a friend.
Yeah, 100%. And, it's been through the years, I've learned a lot from you, and, we've exchanged ideas back and forth. But for the listeners, why don't you share a little bit more about your backstory of what actually got you into real estate?
Yeah, I mean, I guess short end of it, I'm a very process driven guy. My background's in computer engineering. So I couldn't find an agent I felt comfortable with. So, typical engineer, I'll just go and get my own license to support my investing habits, because that's ultimately why I started buying and selling real estate, and why I got licensed as a real estate agent as well. So kind of one thing led to the next. I was building a new home with a builder at the time, and they offered me a job, and I had just made the largest sale in my company's history, $1 million sale to NASA. So I was at that kind of proverbial fork in the road. Do I continue down that path, or do I go into real estate full time? And I guess the rest is history. I went into real estate full time.
And so what year was that, Matt, for the listeners?
Oh gosh, I always have to go back and think.
Approximately.
Yeah, that was about 2006 or so.
Yeah. So you're about 2 decades in the business. And so when you first started, if you can recall, because I'm thinking back for me, I was like, oh yeah, that first year, there's certain things I remember. But for you, what was it that helped you to generate business when you first got in? Like, because there's always that early struggle, right? As in, I got to start and I got to do a sale, and then it's got to close, and then I'll get paid for it. So there's generally the story of the early struggle. What did you do to get business? And maybe you could share from the time of getting your license and starting to grow from there, what that experience was for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's really it's two answers to that question. The first one, when I first got started, I was in new construction. So the builder provided leads. It was more of just a matter of hustling and selling. And, one of the things that I learned early on is if you read an hour a day in your chosen profession, it could be listening to podcasts, it could be reading a book, it could be going, having a mastermind like you and I have had, going to the events that we've gone together. But if you consistently do that over time, you can double your sales, you can double your income every 2 years. And that's really what we've proven with our business. And so that was an important component early on, because I didn't have a lot of sales background. I was a computer engineer. And so I really needed to learn sales. And so I studied a lot, I studied really hard. And with that, I learned how to sell, and I learned how to market, and I learned how to get business off of that. So that was the first one. The second one was we started the business during the Great Recession. And so how did we get business then? Well, we first started by getting a lot of listings, but nothing was selling. I had a bunch of past clients from builders who were negative equity. And so I quickly ramped up to 20 listings, but nothing was selling. And so kind of back to that previous point of I was always learning. So I was listening to these tapes back in the day. It was something called Star Power. I don't know if you ever listened to Star Power, Howard Britton. And one of the common things, it's kind of like these podcasts. They were interviewing top talent, and one of the common themes was this product called Tiger Leads. It was a PPC lead gen system by a guy by the name of Howard Tager. And so I ended up buying that product, and kind of the rest was history. I started working those leads really hard, and quickly ramped up to 50 sales a year, just working off those leads during the Great Recession by myself.
What did your day look like to be able to generate 50 sales a day? So you got the lead source, you have an engineer background. I would imagine you had a lot of desire to want to put food on the table and be successful. Was it just going into the office and just having conversations? Can you take us through a little bit of the things that you did at the activity level to be able to generate that kind of business?
Yeah, so first of all, we generated a lot of leads off of it. So as you know, money is in the follow up. It was all about, speed to lead. It was about following up with people when you say you're going to follow up with them, staying on top of those new leads. Uh, so I think what happens with a lot of real estate agents, they ride the real estate roller coaster. They're going up and down each month based on, I'm going to prospect. I don't have anybody I'm going to work with right now, so I prospect really hard, and they get busy the next month. They go on all these appointments, and then they stop prospecting, and then they repeat that process. It was different with me. I ensured that I got my prospecting done every single day, which helped create the consistency that I had in my own sales business, and then we ultimately have in our team as well.
That's so good. Was there a time of the day that you stuck to?
Well, there's that MIT study out there that a lot of people reference, and based on that web lead study, it's what 8 to 9 around lunchtime, 4 to 6 are the best windows to prospect, and so ideally, you prospect every day 4 to 6, but you end up getting busy with showings and other things, and so I would commit to prospecting early in the day. And then the other thing that didn't show up on the study, this was a Monday through Friday study, but Sunday, like right after church, like 2 to 4 was the best window of time that I found in prospecting. I'd almost schedule the same amount of points on a Sunday afternoon as I would schedule all week long, with just people being more available and picking up the phone.
Thanks for sharing that data point. That's really good, Matt. What do you think it was that helped you be so consistent? I think that's where a lot of agents start with kind of the right intention of, I'm going to do it every day, but then, it falls off, right? You do it for maybe a week or two. What helped you and helps you be consistent, your team members today?
I was leading a mastermind with some of our agents yesterday, and I brought this up to them. I think the challenge with a lot of agents is, they're outgoing, and they're wanting to serve people, and they're just, too reactionary. Hey, the phone rings. Hey, let me answer it. Let me drop what I'm doing and go show this home. To me, discipline equals freedom. And so if you can live by a calendar, an ideal calendar, it frees you up. You're not having to worry about, all right, when am I going to prospect today? When am I going to do these inspections? When am I going to do this for my business? It's already planned out and thought of. And so, you're now freeing up your brain and your calories to go and think about the other important things in your life. And so I'm super disciplined. I eat the same breakfast every day. I have the same routines. I do the same processes over and over each week. But that's what frees me up to think about, how are we going to grow our business? How are we going to do this? How are we going to implement this new marketing plan? And inevitably, I was telling our agents too, is, if you've raised the floor of your goals, like if you're going to do more business this year, you're going to ultimately get busy and face kind of this quote unquote burnout. But what you have to do is you got to go back to the drawing board. Like, how can you be more efficient? Like, what things do you need to stop doing, on your stop doing list? And then what things can you batch? Can you eliminate? Can you combine to be more efficient and kind of take your business to the next level. So that's one thing I always do. Yeah, I was getting burnt out a couple weeks ago, and so I was like, all right, I got to go back to my calendar. What can I cut out? What can I have somebody else do? What can I more efficiently get done? But I think for most agents, it just starts with putting on the calendar.
Yeah, that is such a robust answer, Matt, and a very wise answer. And you're in good company with, Steve Jobs wearing the same clothes every day. Like if you look at real high performing experts and geniuses of what they do, it's like the same thing every day. And the consistency, what that does, like you're saying, is it frees up your mind where you don't have all this decision fatigue. Should I do this or shouldn't I do it? Oh, I don't really feel like it. Should I do it? It's like, no, no, no. It's in the calendar. It's not an if I'm going to do it. It just is. And you just go from one to the next. So this is where the question I think that most people kind of go up against is like, okay, it's in the calendar, but I don't feel like doing it. So you said something really smart earlier. You said discipline equals freedom. So it means something that's like that anchors down. Is there anything else from an advice standpoint that you would give to the agents out there listening when they don't feel like sticking to their calendar? What will help them, take action towards what they committed to?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, feelings are liars. If you and I only did what we felt like doing, can you imagine where we would be? And so that's a big challenge that people have to get over. Is if you're only going to do what you feel like, you're not going to be successful. You're not going to achieve what you want to achieve. I think another part, kind of follow up to that, is one of the things I heard a couple weeks ago was we all were, first of the year, we're setting goals for the year. The challenge is, oftentimes it's an aspirational goal, but we fall down to the level that we're actually comfortable at. We fall down to our floor. The floor is our actual goal. Oftentimes we don't actually start working until we fall below that level. So like if my floor is $250 million a year, I don't start working until we start falling our pacing below that. And so if I want to do more than $250 million a year, I got to raise that floor. I got to raise it to 400 million. And like at that point, I'm uncomfortable when we're below that pace. And agents need to do the same thing for their business.
Yeah, that's really good. You had mentioned earlier, if you're starting to face a little bit of fatigue, that's where you got to go back to the calendar, look at your approach, and cutting things. It's kind of like a rose bush, right? Like you cut roses and prune it in order for it to grow more full and more healthy. What advice would you have for agents out there on maybe some of the things that they can cut today to be able to have more time, to be able to do the rainmaking activities that's actually going to grow their business?
Yeah. Well, as you know, it always goes back to the 80-20 rule. 20% of the activities produce 80% of the results. So one of the habits that I do each year is I go back and I review my calendar, and I go day by day, hour by hour, and just take notes. Like, all right, that was a good thing for me to keep doing in 2026. That was a complete waste of time. I'm never going to repeat that same mistake. But that's what most agents do, is they repeat the same mistakes over and over again year after year. And so just scheduling some of that time. So I do it on an annual basis. If this is something you're trying to get a hang of or hold of in your life and your calendar, I would recommend maybe every week, at least once a month, go back through your calendar and figure out, all right, this was a complete waste of time. Here's what I learned from this so that I'm not going to repeat that same time mistake again.
Yeah, that's really good. It's interesting. Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, mostly Charlie Munger was before he passed. His thing is like success is it's less about doing the right things and more about not doing stupid things. So it's
Yeah.
like, don't do stupid things. And that's where it's interesting in regards to doing the thing over and over and over that is not getting you results. It's like change your approach, right? And what you're doing and not doing the things that, are basically pulling down your business. And so that's where I really like that rule that you had said there about the 80-20 rule. is like focus on those activities that are driving 80% of your results, and this is the 20%. So what are the 20% that an average agent out there, they're like, okay, what are the things? Just tell me what I need to do, Matt. Just I'll do it. Okay, the 20, maybe even like the 10% that gives you even more on a ratio standpoint as well. Like what would that be for a real estate agent?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a brand new agent, I'm starting today. I think you got to do. I'm just off the top of my head, you got to do three things. One is you got to get better. You got to listen to podcasts like this. You got to up your game. Number two is you got to market. You got to have leads. So you either got to join a team like yours or mine, or another great team, or you got to be able to generate those leads yourself. And that might be part of your personal development is learning how to how to market. The third thing is now you got people to talk to. You got to talk to them. So you got to stay disciplined on the prospecting side.
Some agents would say, I'm scared to, or maybe they wouldn't say it, but it's an underlying fear when they have a lead in front of them, or maybe they have to go out and just generate leads. What advice would you give so that they could have more courage to be able to actually do the thing and drive more business for themselves?
Yeah, there's if you're looking for inspiration, here's some great videos out there. But what's the art? Just do it speech
Yeah,
can
Paul
certainly help you
Art
out with that.
Williams. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but here's the thing. Whether you're I know you played hockey. My kids play basketball. Before the game, you're going to have those butterflies. That's a natural um, thing that every human being has. It actually gets you ready for the event that you're about to be in. So you can't get rid of the butterflies. You can't get rid of the fear. You just got to learn how to dance with it. You just have to say like, hey, I hear that I'm fearful right now, but I'm going to do it because once you get into it, the fear starts to go away.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more you kind of stand on that ledge and you think about it, the worse it gets. Like if you're on the high dive, if you just jump, it's so much easier. Maybe you sit there for 20 minutes and contemplate whether or not you're going to jump.
Yeah, and I as you're saying that on the high dive, I remember I did a bungee jump over this river. It was like the craziest thing I've ever done from a we'll just say above and beyond. And I remember being up there, and the guy down below was saying, "Okay, this is Mark." First, they announced my name. This is Mark Faris. He's about to jump. So he announces my name in front of everyone. And he goes, okay, ready, 3. And I remember at the very top, he said 3. And I'm like, oh, so I'm like, I'm not going to, 2, I'm not going to jump. I'm not going to jump. I was like 1, and I'm like, oh, and I jumped. And the guy told me, like, you better jump off here. Like this platform's on fire. And I jumped. And it was interesting is that all that buildup was not, it was the worst part before I jumped. As soon as I jumped, the fall, it was like, oh, okay, it is what it is. But the lead up was the worst part. And so, there's a saying, it's like, courage is not the absence of fear, right? It's like courage is feeling the fear, which is completely normal. Like everybody has it. It's just the taking action in spite of fear is what courage actually is. And so I love what you said. The longer you wait, the worse it gets. And that's where like Mel Robbins' rule, the 5-second rule, right? It's just like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off, go, and just take action. And the faster you do it, the easier it is. And then once you take action, I don't know if you find this, Matt, with this, is that when you start taking action, it all of a sudden all the fear dissipates and it's no problem. It's not as bad as you thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think the other thing to think about too, we've been training our agents and talking to them is, they all have goals right now. And if they're not achieving them right now, or they don't achieve them at some point this year, you got to go back and you got to look at your why. Like if your why is not like if the pain that you're going to face in this life in 2026 is greater than your why, you're not going to do it. But if your why is big enough, you will.
It's really good. Um, Matt, are there any other pieces of advice? You've trained a lot of agents. Like this is you have a lot of experience, not only yourself personally, but you've trained many, many, many agents. You have over 50 agents that are on your team. So you've seen kind of the good, bad, and the ugly of the agents that start on your team, and then they just, the ones that take off and just kill it, and then the ones that come on and you had a lot of hope for them, but then they kind of fizzle out. What would be like the one that took off versus the one that fizzled off? What are some of the things that each of them did that you think attributed to the results they got?
And that's, I mean, I'm sure you've experienced this, but that's one of the most challenging things about our business is, you're like, you hire this new agent, you're like, oh, this guy or this girl is going to be the best, and then they completely flop. Or I don't know about this one. I don't know about this guy or this girl, and they become like one of your top agents on your team. And so we used to spend a ton of time on the front end just interviewing to try to get it right. And now it's more wanting to make sure we get the right core values and, some of these high levels, and then get them in to see if they're actually going to do the work. And so uh, I think for agents, it is 100% commission. So the faster you can get a win, that's something that we really focus on, is getting agents wins quickly. Um, the other thing is, like, how quickly are they gonna get in and start making, going to training and learning the things and putting it into place and actually picking up the phone, which just really comes back to that whole why and that whole floor question. I remember last year there was an agent who had a lot of sales experience, and we asked their goal, and their goal was a lot lower than we thought they were gonna achieve. We're like, "Oh, that agent is just sandbagging, they're not gonna do it." Lo and behold, they hit their goal. They hit the goal that they said they were gonna do. We should have listened to that individual, and it really comes down to, like, the floor was at that level, and that's what they were comfortable at. All day long, you can try to set a goal for an agent, but if they don't want it themselves, if they're not terribly uncomfortable below that goal, there's no way they're going to hit it.
So that's where, to kind of recap on that, it's like making sure that the agents that start, the ones that have a big enough why, the ones that have a big enough, we'll call it like a motivator to be able to be successful, are the ones that generally, and set a high enough bar. Those ones are the ones that take off. And then the other side is the core values, making sure that there's an alignment within the company so that they, when they're exemplifying and working out there, they're not opposing the overall culture, which then in turn would actually help them be more successful as well.
Mhm.
Right.
You got it.
Okay, so moving on here, Matt, one of your strengths is marketing. uh, are there any principles when it comes down to marketing as a real estate agent that you would give for the agents that have been a valuable piece that you've executed on since you started in real estate?
Yeah, a couple of things come to mind is, an agent needs to know the difference between the type of marketing. There's branding, there's, earned media, there's actually lead gen. You got to know where you're at and what your ultimate goal is. Most agents need to be focusing on lead gen. If you're trying to sell 5 homes a year, 10 homes a year, you don't need all the billboards that you and I have up to create branding. You need to just produce leads. I think the other side of it is knowing the economics of it. You need to do a spreadsheet and figure out, like, does the math? Like, how are you can sell 1,000 homes, but if you spent more than you brought in, you're out of business. And I think that's one of the biggest struggles for some agents and for a lot of teams in the industry right now is, these teams don't exist if the team leader's not selling. Because they're taking on these lead gen programs that have high referral fees, and they're paying for way too much, and they're not making money. Like, the business is broke, but they're after a trophy. They're after that number one ranking in their city or their state or whatever it may be. And I think we as an industry, we do a really bad job of we just would promote people like that. We're like, oh, this is who you want to be like, versus really we go to work to serve people, but we also go to work to make money. And if we're not making money, then it's not a true business. And I think that's the reality of the industry right now. It's really, really sad. So I think real estate agents need to learn math. They need to, you know, figure out what lead source. Like one of the things I was doing the last couple of days is, hey, this lead source is not making money. We need to cut it. This
Mm,
lead source is doing really good. We need to spend more money towards it.
yeah. Yeah, that is one of the big things. There's two big myths that I see in real estate. The first one is the difference in the number that we'll say the number of hours a real estate agent says they work compared to the actual number of hours that they actually work, doing like the real work, not being in the office kind of walking around. It's like doing the actual work versus what they think compared to what they're actually doing. The other one is the difference between what they think they're making with gross and then what the net is. And so, that net dollars is very important at the end of the day. And it's interesting as an agent joining a real estate team that a lot of agents don't know this is like joining a team is there's no basically what you make is pretty much what you're putting in your pocket. You don't have all that overhead. And then on your own, you could be doing, similar amount of sales, but you're spending a lot. And you're not actually bringing anything in or a small amount because you're spending a lot of your time, doing everything on your own. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit more on the differences between joining a team like yourself and then an agent that is doing everything on their own?
I mean, it'd be great just to join a team like yours or ours. You don't have to worry about everything that you and I worry about, which is providing for the marketing and the admin support and the training and all those different things. And so, I think to me, the industry is broken because we ask agents to do all these different jobs. So, for example, if my wife and I were going out on a date this Friday, we go to a restaurant and somebody greets me, the same person takes my order, they cook the food, they bust the table. They may be a great individual, but I'm probably never going back to that restaurant because they're just juggling too many balls. There's just too much up in the air. But that's what we ask real estate agents to do. We ask them to put out signs, to market. We ask them to do the listing coordination, the client coordination, or the client care stuff, and showing the homes and listing the homes. And it's just too much. And they're like completely different skill sets too. Like most salespeople get into real estate because they're good at people, people, like being face to face with somebody, selling, taking care of folks. But the other side of the business, the details, they're not always good at. And it ends up being a bad service to the customer because they're either not good at it or they get busy or they go on vacation and balls get dropped. And so the team model operates like a true business. It's repeatable. You get 5-star service, from every agent that they work with, and there's a repeatable process. And so, um, to me, like that's why I'm such a fan of teams, is because it's a better consumer experience, it's a better agent experience. It's so hard now in real estate to generate leads and to get your business going. So it's an amazing place to be able to not only sell more homes, but more importantly, like we talked about before, you can net more money uh, this way because of economics, scale. Like I can hire a runner for the entire team versus you going out and trying to hire your own runner to put out signs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good insight. Matt, it reminds me of this one time. This actually has happened a number of times where I was sitting in the interview and the agent, I thought he could be a good match. We were going down that avenue and it came down to the point where he's like, okay, well, what's your split? And then I said, well, our average agent makes X, which is actually twice as much net as what he was making gross. So our agents were making twice as much net as he was gross. And he's like, well, what's your split? And I'm like, well, here's our average agent. He's like, yeah, but what's your split? And so we ended up talking a little bit more about it, but he got so caught up on what the split is, even though the net was twice as much as he was making, he just couldn't get his head wrapped around. And I think that's where I guess the encouragement is like at the bottom, at the end of the day, it's like how much money you're putting in your pocket at the end of the day is like the number to really be focusing on. And also I think the other thing is like quality of life and culture and who you're hanging around with. I've seen agents that say transition on their own, but then they kind of, they didn't have that high producing group around them that's constantly like buzzing of, putting deals on the board, talking, sharing experiences, growing, developing. Like there's residue that comes off of other top producers just by being around each other. So, it's interesting, the mindset, but then, the upside, and not all teams are created equal, but at the end of the day, like, especially with what you've developed, being the top in the state, you've obviously there's a lot of advantages that, agents can, that are asking the questions like, well, what about a team like Matt? What does that look like? Hopefully that gives them some more insight and perspective. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Matt, when it comes down to customer service and delivering that 5-star experience, what do you think? I mean, what's your number? Your number, I did the intro. It's like you're at 4,000 5-star Google reviews. It's like one of the biggest that I've seen. You probably have one
Yeah,
of the most
Google
that
and Zillow.
I've seen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right across. I mean, would you be the top in North America for number of 5-star Google reviews for a real estate team?
We've got a lot. Yeah,
Yeah,
we've got a
yeah.
lot. So
So
that's across, Google and Zillow and Facebook, but it's well over
yeah,
4,000.
yeah. We've worked hard at it, and I know it was interesting when we started really diving into the Google reviews. We have about 2,700 across our different offices. You were already like at 1,000. I remember where you were like you're well ahead of the curve for that. And obviously, the big part of that is your high standard of care for your clients. What are some of the things that you think you do? Like obviously consistency, you have a flywheel or way of doing business consistently. Uh, what is it that you think connects with the clients the most that makes them say, wow, Matt, that was 5-star service. I'm going to go on and leave a review for you.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's a couple components. It's one is, we're in a people business. You've got to hire the right people. Um, if we find a team member that's not providing 5-star service, it's like, look, the whole company relies on this, and if they're not able to meet that standard, then their reliability to everybody else before them. I tell a lot of new agents, it's like you're standing in the midst of giants. Basically they've gone ahead of you and created all these 5-star reviews. Is now like you're benefiting from it. So now you gotta go out and pay it forward for the next group of agents that are coming in as well. So one, hiring the right people that care, and creating a culture where we just do that. I think one of the ways that we help foster that within our team is that every month we have our what we call our first Wednesday meeting, where we have awards and announcements and those type of things. But one of the first things that we do is we do team push-ups, and so that's where I
Actual
show.
push-ups.
Well, not actual push-ups,
Yeah.
but like push-ups like, hey, I shut up and allow them to talk, and they're bragging on each other. Like, hey, I just want to brag on what a great job Mark in the closing department did to help this difficult situation and provide 5-star service. Or, so telling those stories, I think that's one thing. What you measure is something that happens as well. And so we measure our reviews. We have our whoever gets the most reviews each week. We post online on social media as well, so it helps build their business. So that's a big part of it. The other part of it is just having a process that works, and sticking to it.
What is their approach to asking for them? I think that's where a lot of agents fall short because they'll they'll do it for maybe one or two of their sales, but then they forget and they don't ask. Is there a time you ask, and then is there a way you ask in order to get more?
I think first you got to systematize it just like anything else. Because if you don't have a system around it, then you're going to forget. And it's just going to be like what you mentioned before, when you're going to do it when you feel like it or when you think of it. Um, an easy way to look at it is anytime you hear the word thank you, ask for a review. Because the client, like, you've provided amazing service, they want to pay you back. Now you show them how they can pay you back, which is a 5-star review. So that's a big thing I coach our agents on. And then the other part is we just, we systematize it, right? Um, right after their closing, we send them a review. All of our team members we have like a review template that they can send. The biggest thing is asking, but our client care also after, post close. Hey, how was the experience with Mark? Oh, it was amazing. It was this and it was that. Well, great. Did you know Mark builds his business off of reviews and repeat clients? It would mean the world to Mark if you'd give him a 5-star review. Would you be open to that? Oh, yeah, I'd love to do that. Well, I'll go ahead and send you those links right now.
Yeah, that's really good. And again, I think that this is moving forward is such a good one because a lot of people go on those and they want to see it. And it's actually, when somebody goes on and gives a review, it actually is the rule of consistency that Robert Cialdini talks about in his book Influence, where they're going to be more consistent with wanting to work with you if they publicly we'll say they recommended you online. So I think just by doing that act and doing it consistently pays very well in the long term.
Generates referrals as well.
You got it. So Matt, when it comes to real estate, one of the things that you and I are both huge advocates is investing in real estate. Why should real estate agents invest in real estate? What is it that you think is a good overall approach to building overall wealth?
Well, as a real estate agent, you're doing such a great job building wealth for others, and that's your job. Homeowners in our country in the U.S. have 40 times the net worth of renters. It's probably the same in Canada as well. So there's that side of it, but for you personally, I think every agent that's doing well should have this one goal, and that goal is your passive income needs to be greater than your expenses. When that happens, you call it wake up money. There's really no such thing as wake up money. You're still going to put some work into having properties, even if you have it managed by somebody else. But by having that, you have freedom. Like if you decide you don't want to sell real estate anymore, you can go do something else. If you are injured and sick or whatever, you and your family are taken care of, and ultimately that creates ultimate financial freedom, and you get to do real estate or whatever it is you choose to do in life because you want to and you feel called to.
Yeah. Yeah. 90% of millionaires use real estate to build their wealth. It would make sense that you follow that, the positive results that have come from that. And what's interesting too is when you're in the business every day, I mean, it's a great talking point with clients as well. I think it builds further respect and credibility as well, especially real estate investors, right? So, um, all right, Matt. Well, listen, we're going to wrap up. We have 3 rapid fire questions here for you, and then we're going to come to a close here. But it's been a great conversation so far. First question is you and I are both readers. You talked about like read a book. If you do that on an hour a day, you're going to double your income on an ongoing basis. What book for you, for say the average real estate agent out there, would be your recommendation for them to read and then take action on?
Mm. Well, I mean, my faith, and so the Bible's always going to be the number one choice. But from a business perspective, the one book, gosh, I have a library of books. Um, hmm,
So many good ones.
yeah, so many good ones. I would just start with something sales related. I don't know that this would be the one, but this kind of standing out. There's books by Zig Ziglar and the Little Red Book of Selling and those type of things. But I think understanding the psychology of selling and closing. A mentor of mine, John Palumbo, has a lot of really good sales books. So that's probably where I would start.
Right on. Second question, what are 3 words that best describe you?
Oh gosh. Principle. Yeah, I'm very principle driven, very systematized, very determined. Um, yeah, faith is a very important thing to me.
Yeah, very good. And final question here for you, Matt. What final advice would you have for the real estate agents out there that or maybe are struggling today, to give them a little bit of encouragement?
You know, if we didn't even go into my story and my background, but I would say like if I can do it, you can do it. The difference. I was watching an Instagram video the other day, and it showed this. It was my daughter, and my son play basketball, so I'm always looking at drills and stuff to help them. And it's showing this girl working on a spin move, and it was just embarrassing how bad she was. And then it showed the next year and her doing the spin move a little bit better. And then like 5 years later, she's in college and she's like dominating people with this spin move. But that's how it starts out. We all start out, embarrassing. Our first sales presentation, our first call, it's not good, but it's picking yourself back up and getting a little bit better each time. Kind of sharpening that axe, if you will. Going and learning more things on the sales side, so that you do a better job the next time. So just picking yourself up and allowing yourself to fail, but kind of fail forward.
So good. Matt, always appreciate the conversations we have. What's the best way for maybe the real estate agents out there that are listening to send you business, whether it's a buyer seller from a referral standpoint, or maybe it's an agent in your area looking to join your team? What's the best way they can reach out?
Yeah, I mean, super easy. MattCurtisRealEstate.com is our website. You can find us, find me on Instagram and Facebook. If you like this conversation, of course, we have a podcast that we've launched recently as well. You can listen to that, Real Estate Matters. So yeah, you can find us there.
Real Estate Matters. Go check out that podcast. Matt Curtis, thank you so much. There's a lot of wisdom in what you shared here today, and I want to encourage the listeners out there to share this podcast with anyone you think would benefit from it. Matt, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Mark.
Right on. Well, guys, thanks again for listening. I love you guys, and keep on going full out.